After 4 weeks, only two undefeated teams remain, and most likely not your fantasy lineups because of all the injuries and busts and crazy performances that we have on a weekly basis. Today, we go game by game with at least 8 games covered in today's wrap up. I can't wait to do it, Hayden. And we kick things off with one of the biggest upsets of the weekend, and there were plenty of them here in week 4. That is the New York Giants, with Jackson Dart making his NFL debut, toppling the LA Chargers 21-18. Hayden, unfortunately, we can kind of have a crossroads moment here and go in two directions. Do we start with the rookie's debut, how the Chargers didn't score a lot of points, or do we start with the massive amount of injuries on both sides that are going to impact the rest of the fantasy football season?
You can't really tell the story of the game without explaining kind of both. So let's just start this from the top. The first quarterback since Patrick Mahomes to lead their team on an 80-plus yard touchdown drive of their first drive of their NFL career was Jackson Dart. So it was electric. The energy in the building was fantastic. You felt it. You knew this is a humongous game for New York, and not even about this season, just like this is like a turning of the franchise. And you felt it. On that one, you had 3 quarterback runs, all designed on the first drive, a touchdown on the quarterback draw. It was very evident that Jackson Dart is a good athlete among NFL starting quarterbacks. I thought that he was doing a good job of hiding like the Giants' red zone problems, which is kind of, to me, is like they don't really block it up very well. And they also don't have like clear ball winners on the outside. So using Jackson Dart's legs was obviously very big. After that, that scoring drive, he kind of got hit by a hot play, just didn't feel it. They kind of stagnated. There wasn't like a lot of like pure drop back from Jackson Dart. They were kind of pushing the ball downfield on shot plays, and that's when Malik Neighbors goes down. So he had a couple quick receptions early, had a defensive pass interference, and then going down the field, pops his ACL. He will be out for the season. At that point, the Giants only had like kind of one opportunity, and that was just to keep using Cam Scatterbo and Jackson Dart. This was an extremely run-based offensive approach, 32% neutral pass rate for the New York Giants. Cam Scatterbo finishes with over 22 expected half PPR points. I thought that he was decisive. I thought that Cam Scatterbo showed a lot of athleticism. He's obviously got tons of size and aggressiveness. So I liked all that stuff. The Giants, it was a very gutsy win from them, overcoming the Malik Neighbors injury, but they did not do this in the standard drop back game pretty much at all. This was a very fluky kind of offense here, but it was great to see the New York Giants play with some energy. And Brian Daboll after the game was completely pumped up, even with like obviously losing Malik Neighbors, their best player, out for the season. There was still a lot of energy from New York just because Jackson Dart did not look like he was like not ready for the moment. He definitely had a lot of moxie, and that athleticism was like a really, really big storyline here.
So stat line, 13 of 20, 111 yards, 5 sacks, for 25 yards, 1 touchdown. Then on the ground, 10 carries for 54 and a score. Cam Scatterbo, 25 carries for 79 yards. On top of that, as you mentioned, Darius Slayton is now the team's leading receiver with 3 catches for 44 yards on 4 targets. Yeah, a combination of 42 runs, which 10 of those are the quarterback.
Yep.
Compared to 21, I guess 26 dropbacks when you add everything onto it. What do you think about this offense moving forward? Like, what am I going to see when I turn this game on tomorrow morning from a passing game standpoint that kind of gives me hope the rest of the way of a Jackson Dart-led passing attack?
Not a whole lot. There's a couple design plays down the field. There was one opportunity for Darius Slayton who drew a holding on a post route that probably would have been a touchdown if it was not for the defensive holding. Theo Johnson, they got him a little manufactured touch for a touchdown in the red area. There was not like a bunch of like backside dig, pure progression reads from Jackson Dart. That's also asking a lot for your first NFL start. It was more of like the college-y kind of feel. But what we talked about is like the two things that we're going to get more quarterback design stuff and we're going to get tempo. And in this game, especially early on, lots of no huddle, getting this thing going. And you felt that early. So they actually ran a lot of plays for how run based they were. So that was kind of exciting. I don't know what they're going to do about this pass game stuff. As much as I like Darius Slayton as like a go ball guy, and he's going to have some moments now in super deep leagues, you're just not going to have that like go-to option. Like Theo Johnson's kind of stagnated in his development. He's a young player. Wan'Dale Robinson has always been this kind of underneath guy. So we'll see. Like they don't have that like X receiver, that outside go ball winner anymore, and that's obviously going to hurt them. It is nice though that Andrew Thomas being back and managed to survive this game. That's going to be a big deal for them. But I would just expect a lot of plays, a lot of Cam Scatterbo, a lot of Jackson Dart, and then also a lot of Abdul Carter on the other side.
I guess my question is, if the Giants could only put up 21 points. And if that was 89 yards in total passing, how could this Chargers team that was 3-0 heading into this one with Ladd McConkey, with Quentin Johnston, with Keenan Allen, and even with Omarion Hampton getting 128 rushing yards on 12 carries to go with 5 receptions for 37 yards on 5 targets, how could they only muster 18 points, and how do they lose this game?
Joe Alt played 8 snaps, and then on the other 40 snaps, it was complete hell. So he was pressured on 48% of his dropbacks, and Joe Alt didn't allow a pressure, according to PFF. So Justin Herbert was retreating. He was still making a couple wow plays, like the Quentin Johnston one. He was probably the biggest discussion, aside from Omarion Hampton and Joe Alt here. Quentin Johnston stutter and go move where Justin Herbert timed it up perfectly through an absolute laser. There's like maybe only a couple quarterbacks on the planet right now that were going to be able to fit that one in, because the safety was even like shading towards the Quentin Johnston side, which like teams are now shading towards the Quentin Johnston side because he's been so dominant. Quickly ran the model right before going live here, and he's second in expected half PPR points at wide receiver this week, only behind Puka Dam Nakua. It's hard to not rank him as the wide receiver 1 at this point. Like, it's 4 straight weeks where he has 13 targets. Keenan Allen has 7 targets, and then Ladd McConkey had 6 targets, and then Ladd McConkey only caught 1 of them. There was actually even a couple drops from Ladd McConkey in this one. There's some drops like throughout here, but the Chargers were super one-dimensional, passing the ball relentlessly, and Dexter Lawrence was a problem. He had that pick, almost 6. Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, all of them were creating pressure. The left tackle situation right now for the Chargers, and it looks like it's going to be a high ankle sprain for Joe Alt. That's going to be multiple weeks, most likely. And the rest of the offensive line's bad. And he was like the one saving grace. And it's like if Trent Williams goes down for the 49ers, like all of a sudden the entire unit looks pretty underwhelming. So I thought that Herbert like played fine football, only taking 2 sacks, but we're going to have to definitely adjust if he's going to be under pressure 40+% of the snaps.
23 of 41, took 2 sacks, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions here for just 203 yards and 186 when you remove the sack yardage. I was nervous in the offseason when Rashawn Slater went down because, you spent first round picks on both these bookend tackles. They were by far and away the best moments of your offensive line, the best pieces of that. Obviously, through the first 3 weeks of the season, not having Rashawn Slater didn't totally tank this offense. They were still incredibly good, and they still decided to have this crazy neutral pass rate. Hayden, what do you think happens here moving forward, where they took that to another level in terms of 43 dropbacks comparing to just 13 runs, and 12 of those went to running backs, and that's it? Like, to me, that is putting even more pressure on your quarterback, who can do it. We know he's an MVP candidate. Yeah. But again, that's like saying, oh, this bad thing is happening to us. We're going to lean even more into this possible weakness.
Aside from maybe Mahomes, like no team is putting more on just the quarterback than what the Chargers are doing with Justin Herbert. So it's going to be a bad situation for the next couple weeks. The good news is Justin Herbert this season has played like an MVP candidate, and even in this one was still getting it done with Quentin Johnston. He had a nice 24-yard scramble. That was like on a 3rd and 19 for a conversion. The other thing, the Giants have 3 premium edge rushers plus Dexter Lawrence. Not every single team is going to be able to get after it to this degree, but the Chargers offensive line is definitely a concern. Omarion Hampton did make the most of it. Obviously 128 rushing yards and the score. The 54-yarder showed a little bit of patience at the line of scrimmage. And then it was very clear that he is extremely fast. It's something we talked about, where if he's not going to be like wiggling in and out of cuts, if he's running by defensive backs, adding 30 pounds to those guys, then things are going to end up working out. So he caught a couple passes on checkdowns as well, where like Herbert's scanning the entire field, getting it back to Omarion Hampton as well. So that's encouraging. He played a bunch of the snaps here. No other running back got a carry here. So this is RB1 level stuff for Omarion Hampton, even with the offensive line concerns. So I think maybe the next couple weeks, like expect the Chargers to take a slight step back, and then hopefully Joe Alt with this high ankle sprain, he dodges injured reserve.
I feel like for a couple weeks we've been saying, hey, Omarion Hampton isn't the perfect runner, but at some point he is going to get a clear lane on the edge or between the tackles. And at that point he is off to the races, because the dude has so much juice, so much explosiveness, and a long run is inevitable. And that 54-yarder definitely is a part of that. I know he broke some other tackles that they were trying to tackle him high, and he was kind of doing his interesting, innovative, unique kind of spins and get off me type things. So that's really, really good to see. What isn't good to see, Hayden, is once again, Ladd McConkey exits with 1 catch for 11 yards, this time on 6 targets. I feel like we can have this conversation every week. Part of me thinks it is worthwhile. The other part, is it worthwhile? Is it something that we have to dive into after each of these performances to then re-rank moving forward? Ladd McConkey and QJ and Keenan Allen. Just want to get a read on your situation at this moment.
Yeah, so he's averaging 6.75 targets per game, which is less than what I thought going into the season. And he's not been nearly as successful on a per target basis. On top of that, he had a couple drops in this one, like early in the game, first drive had a drop. There's another one on the sideline as well. And then obviously when they get into the red area, Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnson are just like physically more impressive players. And then obviously Omari and Hampton can get it done too. So the target share stuff that we were dreaming of before the season, you just no longer could expect that. Could he be a high ceiling wide receiver 3 on a given basis? Like, absolutely. So he's still 100% playable in this offense. Is he a second round value if we're doing drafts today? Nowhere near it. And I do think with the target discrepancy between the two and Quentin Johnson catching more of a pass, he had a couple drops in this one. All of the receivers did. He just, where he's being utilized is just far more valuable. Like if you're getting targets 30 yards down the field, even if you catch one and drop the other, like that's still a huge chunk play. So I think we're all the story that they don't consistently run the ball in this offense. So all these guys are going to have big weeks, but the target shares and stuff, it's hard to ignore 3-4 weeks out.
And the QJ play that he made in this game might not be one that he makes in other seasons. You know, it's the football's going through 4 hands almost to get to him, tight coverage, and he comes up with it and continues to like run down the seam or the sideline for these big scores. Pretty sweet to see. Okay. If the Chargers are 3-1, let's go to 2 other teams that are now 3-1 as the Jacksonville Jaguars go on the road in San Francisco, Bay Area, and beat the 49ers 26-21. We will get to the offense on both sides, but the number one thing and the takeaway here is that the Jaguars have 13 turnovers on defense that they have forced already through 4 games. At some point, you think that will stop. At some point, you think that will regress, but it has not. And it's a variety of them, a cornucopia, forced fumbles, deflected interception, sack fumbles. They did it all in this game. And even on top of that, Parker Washington had an 87-yard punt return touchdown, and Travis Etienne had a 48-yard scamper himself for a score where he destroyed a safety angle at the 3rd level to pull away. And that's the game, you know, like that is the entire game. It is amazing. And it speaks to how close the NFL is when one team has 4 turnovers that they force plus a punt return touchdown, and they only win by 5 points in the end, with actually the 49ers having multiple chances to take the lead in this game. I'll go through some individuals here. First, Brian Thomas Jr. closes with 7 targets, 5 receptions, and 49 yards. Squeaky wheel situation-ish. He had a couple of moments, some outbreakers, but definitely wasn't needed in like the full scope of the game in terms of heavy targets in his direction. Travis Hunter also had an incredible 28-yard post route catch on a 3rd down, yet he played 38 of 68 offensive snaps with 3 catches for 42 yards on 5 targets and played only 9 of 66 defensive snaps. And I bet if you look, those 9 would be very early on, where he was kind of getting smoked a little bit by Ricky Pearsall. Okay. Meanwhile, for the 49ers, if they had one good play, it was always followed by a disastrous one. Like early in the game, as I mentioned, Ricky Pearsall easily beat Travis Hunter for a 3rd and 2 to move the sticks. The next snap, backup tight end Luke Farrell fumbled after a 14-yard gain. Then later on, Ricky Pearsall, gain of 32. An awesome back shoulder adjustment versus Tyson Campbell. The next snap, CMC bobbles a pass over the middle, which was a little bit high and thrown into traffic. That goes right into Devin Lloyd's hands, who was having a monstrous contract year and already backed the Brinks truck up for him, someone across the league. Then later, Kendrick Bourne, 2 drops in this game, 1 on 3rd down. On that 3rd down, immediately after that, after punting, that's the 87-yard punt return touchdown by Parker Washington. So again, the 49ers here had multiple opportunities. And what stood out to me was that Brock Purdy certainly was not 100% healthy. His toe injury was absolutely bothering him. And so he was sailing passes that he probably wouldn't in the past. He wasn't moving as well as he would have in the past. And then a team that is already incredibly injured. You know, Ricky Pearsall spends a quarter in the blue tent, is off and on. Then Juwan Jennings catches a 2-point conversion, gets absolutely crunched, basically doesn't return to this game. Kendrick Bourne and Sky Moore, and these guys are getting legit snaps here for the 49ers. And in the end, it is just not enough for them to come back and win this game.
Yeah, I think if you're going just looking at this with all the injuries they've had, the fact that they're 3-1 is a good thing. Now they're on short rest with the game against the Rams on Thursday Night Football this week. So we'll see the turnaround time, see if Brock Purdy can progress. Because I saw the same exact thing. Was when he was dropping back, him exploding off of his back foot was just not the same. I think that those are explaining the air mails, and then obviously like the strip sack and whatnot, probably not moving around the pocket as quickly as he would otherwise. The Juwan Jennings stuff was like really tough to see. Like, what a player, just getting out there and grinding through an ankle injury, a shoulder injury. Now he's got this rib injury on top of that. George Kittle will not be back this week. So this is going to be like a storyline that continues over the next couple days with them playing on a quick turnaround against the Rams on Thursday night.
And even Jake Tongas left halfway through the game too, but he still is like the second leading receiver with 3 catches, 58 yards, and the final touchdown that they had. Yeah, when you look at the Juwan Jennings stat line, that is not 4 quarters. When you look at the Ricky Pearsall stat line, that is not 4 quarters. Hopefully they are able, as Hayden just said, to play 4 quarters against the Rams because, they will most likely be in some people's starting lineups, but we don't know that answer. We probably won't know until Thursday morning. On the Christian McCaffrey front, he only has 23 touches in this game, but takes that for 49 rushing yards and 17 carries. So still his longest run there is 11 yards. But in the receiving game, in the second half, there was just dump offs after dump offs. 6 catches on 11 targets for 92 yards and a score. And his score was a shovel pass touchdown.
He's a wide receiver 1 and an RB2. Like, he's not even an RB1. He's really a wide receiver 1 right now.
And then on the Jaguars offensive side, they still have way too many penalties, man. Like, they are getting late to the line of scrimmage. They're getting these illegal shifts. There was I think 4th and 1 or a 3rd and 1 where both Trevor and Liam Cohen didn't call a timeout, which pushed them 5 yards back in a situation that was just inches that they needed for the first down. I think they had 12 penalties in this game for 90 yards. They still win. They're still 3-1, but a huge part of it is because of these turnovers and the punt return. And when that kind of, not luck, but when that element runs out, you can't then shoot yourself in the foot. Like, they are not being punished right now for having this multitude of penalties that they've had through 4 games so far.
Yeah, but I think that shows you just the power of having 2 edge rushers that are really good. I know Trayvon Walker had a wrist injury and he left this game, but also, like you said, Devin Lloyd over the middle making a bunch of plays. Jordan Lewis, their slot corner acquisition this offseason, he's been making plays, and then Tyson Campbell's been, to me, kind of taking even another step as an outside corner 1 right now. So this Jaguars defense is definitely very legit, and that's been helpful. And a lot of the Liam Cohen like gadgety plays are like largely working, and the ground game looks night and day. So obviously I think that Travis Etienne saved Jacksonville's offense with that 48-yard touchdown. I think that he keeps running through contact. He looks great to me. Like, this is no longer like a situation where like he's getting lucky. Like, this is like 4 weeks where I think Travis Etienne has been like an above average starting running back right now. So that was like a big takeaway here. 19 carries for him to Bashal Tootin. So I'm not sure if there was anything else I missed from the wide receivers or anything from.
No, the only thing is some of those deflected balls, like Trevor Lawrence had 2 that popped into the air that like Fred Warner couldn't bring down, for example. Yeah. So like the bounces are going in the Jaguars direction right now in comparison to their opponents. But at the same time, if those also just go away in terms of the penalties or these turnover worthy plays, then this team is legit good. Like in all phases, they are really good. Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about that Trayvon Walker wrist injury because he missed about the entire second half with it. But Josh Hines-Allen is a total gamer. And obviously Travis Etienne is playing he's playing about 60% of the snaps because then LaQuint Allen and Bashal Tootin share the other 40%, but then he's getting all of the carries, all of them. The move, hopefully you all watched that 48-yard touchdown run at some point because the move he put on 25, I think he was closing here, was super sweet.
I got one Travis Hunter question. After the game, he only played wide receiver in the second half. Liam Cohen said, quote, personal decision that had to do with a few things that we'll keep in-house for now. So I like that he had that post route, and I mentioned it that even though he's a slot-only player, he's at least running some more downfield routes. It doesn't really matter for fantasy purposes, but something to note. But I'm not sure if there was like any pre-snap penalties or anything weird that you saw with the Travis Hunter stuff, because that's like a weird quote to have, I think, after the game, because he could have just been like, oh, like anything, but that was just kind of interesting.
No, to me, it was maybe because he was getting burned at corner. Like he did not have early good corner snaps.
Yeah.
Tough assignments, but maybe that played a part in it here. Yeah. And then on the Parker Washington stuff, he played the most wide receiver snaps on this team with 58 of 68, but finished with no catches. So hopefully you at least get 6 points from that punt return touchdown, and that helps save the day. But again, the process was correct in terms of playing him with De'Ami Brown inactive. I do want to add, there were a couple weird moments in this game. Like Jaguars were pinned like really close to their goal line. They got a holding penalty that if the 49ers had declined, it would have been 3rd and 12. And instead it turned into 2nd and 17 as it was accepted. But Kyle Shanahan basically said he did not accept it. He called a timeout and talked with the referee. And all you could see was the referee like tapping himself, being like, oh, that's my bad, but we can't take it back now. And then they ran the ball in that 2nd and 17. Then they converted in that 3rd down to the 28-yard catch for Travis Hunter. So that was a weird moment. And that was the first play of a 13-play touchdown drive. Yeah. And then at the end, Liam Cohen and Robert Saleh getting a shouting match onto the field. It's basically our version of Conte and Tuchel on the touchline here. But as we know, Robert Saleh basically called out the Jaguars coaching staff for legally stealing signs, which every team does.
Yeah, sounds legal.
Every team does. And Liam Cohen, being separated by 2 of his offensive linemen, yells at Robert Saleh, which to me is the best way of yelling at Robert Saleh, because you don't have to get actually in a physical distance of him, because I don't think that would go very well for Liam Cohen.
No, you'd pick somebody else to go fight. Go fight Mike. Fight Shanahan before you fight Saleh.
Okay, next. One of those 4-0 teams, the Philadelphia Eagles, get the monkey off their back in terms of Todd Bowles and this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for 4 quarters. They beat the Bucs 31-25 on the road. Hayden, talk us through this one.
So they only have 7 points in the second half. Philadelphia, they still manage a win. They jumped out to a big lead on the first drive of the game for Tampa Bay. Blocked punt touchdowns, immediately 7-0. The next drive the Eagles have, another touchdown. It's up 14-0. So there was less pressure for Jalen Hurts in the normal drop back game because the scoreboard was in his favor. But I do want to give just a quick shout out to the Eagles offensive coordinator. For the first half of the game, very controlled. Tampa Bay, predictably so, blitzed Jalen Hurts a ton. He just had more quick answers to the test. Get the ball out in space, more flicks. It was not just like Saquon Barkley ripping it apart. No, Saquon Barkley once again held in check here. I think the offensive line could probably explain a lot of that. Vita Vea was a monster as usual. But I just thought that Jalen Hurts was buying a little bit of time, not flushing outside the pocket and throwing the ball downfield for incompletions. Just seemed like he had a better idea of where to go. He ultimately saw 18 blitzes versus 14 non-blitzes. That's pretty dang drastic. It wasn't like he was taking a ton of sacks in this one. Either only had 2 of them. So it's in previous games, we would see like more crazy interceptions. We would see some more sacks. We would see some fumbles. He avoided all of that. Did we see explosiveness through the air? Not at all. The longest pass was a 22-yarder to Dallas Goedert. Devontae Smith had a 20-yarder.
2 completions of 4 attempts, 5 attempts of 10 plus yards. So 2 completions of 10 plus yards in this game.
And then both of the Dallas Goedert touchdowns were like design stuff, flicking the ball underneath and stuff. So I think that it was a controlled game. They knew that they were going to go into Tampa Bay. It was really hot out. There was potentially for some weather. They knew they were going to get blitzed. Lane Johnson, not himself. Landon Dickerson, their left guard, he's not himself. And you have Vita Vea out there. So they were in like the hornet's nest and they survived in advance. And that's kind of what the Philadelphia Eagles do when everyone's healthy, which they are right now. This team does not lose. Like that's like not an overstatement. Like they have not lost when everybody is healthy. And that's another one in here as well. It was one of these games where AJ Brown, Devontae Smith were just not getting the downfield looks, and that's super frustrating. But when they jump out to a 14-0 lead in the first quarter, like we're not expected to see a bunch of air yards for those 2 guys.
Can I just ask, because if you told me AJ Brown got 9 targets in this game, I'd be thrilled heading into it. Isolated coverage, hopefully down the sideline, some shot plays. But those 9 targets went for 2 receptions and 7 yards. Were those just, hey, I'm throwing it to you on slants or curls, and it's going to be super tight coverage, and those are difficult catches to make?
Yeah, definitely. So I did want to shout out the Tampa Bay cornerback play, just when they're left on an island, and that's what does happen when you're setting that many blitzes. They just handled themselves very well. Like, this was not just like AJ Brown and Devontae Smith outclassing the Tampa Bay secondary. The Tampa Bay secondary has actually got a couple key players out there right now. So it's a good Tampa Bay defense, and neither of the wide receivers were winning. So thankfully, all the trickeration early, and then Jalen Hurts obviously buying some time. He has 62 rushing yards. Obviously, that's going to really help. And then like the Saquon Barkley touchdown was not even like Saquon up the gut. That was tush push formation, and then goes through an end around to Saquon Barkley.
Love it. So I love the counter off that.
Love the counter off of it. But once again, that was not like what we saw from last year when Saquon Barkley up the middle for 60 yards. We have not seen that. So another one of these games where we'll take the points. 19 carries, 43 rushing yards, and a score for Saquon Barkley. We can't sneeze at that. He also caught 4 passes. So like, not fully panicking, but the one touchdown, I think it was the 10-yarder, his longest of the game, was the little counter to the tush push.
I think his longest carry still remains this season at 16 yards, which is very different to last year. Did Lane Johnson finish this game?
No, he did not. I don't have enough.
That's like 2 games of the last 4 that he has not been able to finish, which is not great. Okay, let's talk about Tampa Bay here. They had 6 points in the first half and have a 14-point third quarter and score 25 in the end. We love watching Baker Mayfield play football.
Yes,
it's a roller coaster. But Hayden, it feels like while he got a massive 2 plays to Emeka Egbuka for a 77-yard touchdown, then he threaded it through 2 defensive backs. He had another like throwback to Bucky Irving along the left sideline that went for also a 72-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
In the end, it was a rollout, force, deflected pass that kind of ended this game. And the roller coaster goes, and it's full of entertainment. And me, as an innocent bystander, appreciate it and enjoy watching it.
Yeah, this was like the ultimate Baker Mayfield game. Can't count him out. Fought back. Wasn't enough to beat the freaking Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia. But this was also not a great environment. The right tackle was getting smoked. There was interior pressure as well, which you're accustomed to facing Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, certainly. But he was flushed out of the pocket. Those 2 big plays, just to mention them right off the top. Bucky Irving in a complete scramble drill with Baker Mayfield, just a classic Baker Mayfield inside and outside the pocket. Finally, Bucky Irving beats Giad Campbell, the first-round linebacker, over the top for a huge long play. And then the Emeka Egbuka was a little rollout where he just crossing over the field, and Baker, splits all 4 hands like this to Emeka, who just could walk about 60 yards after the catch for a touchdown. So those were great plays for Baker Mayfield. The rest of it, he was kind of running for his life. Him only taking 2 sacks like surprises me. After like watching that, he felt under duress. So that kind of shows you the difference that Baker Mayfield is like, will hang in there. There was also some plays where is 1 interception, but this could have been multiple fumbles, and this could have been multiple interceptions. So he just a crazy circus act. A lot of fun here. I guess my other note here, but 2 of them, Bucky Irving at one point kind of got rolled up on by his ankle. He seemed to be fine afterwards, but it kind of looked a little bit nastier. So that's something to pay attention to. And then Chris Godwin, he gets 10 targets, only 3 receptions, just like never looked like he was getting wide open. Obviously, you're getting Quinyon Mitchell and then Cooper DeJean at times. It's not going to look as clean, but there's like not an offense where there's a bunch of guys wide open because of scheme. And then Chris Godwin was just not beating Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell one-on-one. So I would be hesitant to start Chris Godwin next week. It's Emeka and Bucky at this point. And even with Baker Mayfield, you're just like threading a needle. It's a little bit harder because the offensive line is not nearly as good as it was the previous season.
Emeka Egbuka right now is the wide receiver 5 on the season, which is just fantastic stuff. Absolute monster. When I was watching this game, had my eyes on it, the Chris Godwin stuff, he was being targeted on those normal, almost crossing routes or outbreakers. Yep. And then he just wasn't able to get a second foot in bounds, or wasn't coming up with those really tight window contested catches that he had made his mark over the last 5-6 years. Like, that is what his, game is all about, are these physical receptions. And they were kind of just bouncing off his hand. So obvious rust to his game. And who knows if that gets fixed in the next game, if that gets fixed in 2 or 3 games after that. How did Tristan Wirfs look?
I think that Tristan Wirfs was fine. He played every single snap on top of that. So this
Good.
was not like the rotation that we see with sometimes the other elite left tackles. So yeah, I feel more bullish about Tristan Wirfs than I do with Chris Godwin. But they really need like right guard, right tackle. Like those two starters are like as big of a deal as getting Tristan Wirfs back. Like your entire right side of the line is like a problem.
More 3-1 teams as the LA Rams hold out in the end and topple almost the unbeatable Indianapolis Colts 27-20. This was a wild one for multiple reasons. Okay. First, Daniel Jones throws his first interception of the season on the opening drive, a deep shot that was well covered by two Rams defensive backs. They actually ended the day with 3 turnovers. There are only 3 turnovers this season. Again, they did not have a turnover for the first 3 games of the year. Tyler Warren did have a rushing touchdown lined up at fullback. It was a very methodical drive that at that point put the Colts up 10-3. He was lined up at fullback and got the handoff. He finishes his day with 6 targets, 5 receptions, 70 yards, just plug and play every single week in your fantasy lineup. Just before halftime, Devontae Adams not targeted until that final drive. Then he gets 3 catches for 31 yards and a score to bring it to 13-10 just around halftime. And on the day, Devontae goes 4 for 56 for 1 score. And then we get the first of multiple Adonai Mitchell plays in this game. A unreal 75-yard twisting contested catch reception through traffic, stays up against another defensive back. And just as he's running it in, he tries to exchange it from his right arm into his left hand and reach it over the pylon, loses control, and the ball goes out of bounds for the dreaded touchback. And that's a monster play because 1, it's a great individual effort, and 2, would be his first NFL touchdown. But 3, that's a flip from 17-13 Colts to then that staying 10-13 Rams at halftime. Just diabolical stuff. Next, second half opens, and it's not how you expect it with these two amazing offenses. 6 punts and a fumble drive. But then the Colts respond with, again, a very technical 11-play, 90-yard touchdown drive that ended with a Michael Pittman score. So again, that's 17-13 here. Kyron Williams then fumbles on a tough exchange that he gets it kind of up high in his shoulder pads. Mike Hilton is knifing through the line. He tackles him at the same time. So then it goes to 2020, a 4th down, Puka Nacua red zone touchdown to tie it up. He's just too damn powerful. He is easily the wide receiver 1 this year. He has 15 targets, 13 receptions, 170 yards, and a score in this game. And yes, Hayden, I said red zone touchdown because that feels like one of the, I think, 3rd in his NFL career so far. And then again, Adonai Mitchell, the man in the spotlight. There's a 53-yard touchdown run by Jonathan Taylor, who twists and turns and bounces off tacklers. And Adonai Mitchell pulls a cornerback to the ground who's trying to hold the edge. That drive ends in a punt. And the very next play, Tutu Atwell, 88 yards, 1 catch, outside breaking route. I believe it was Cam Bynum who trips and falls down. And again, the only play that Tutu Atwell makes all season long, he makes here. And that closes with a Daniel Jones interception into double coverage. So a brutal one for the Colts that they think that they, let get away. But at the same time, it's this Rams team that I know so many of us, including myself, had some concerns about. If Matthew Stafford takes a single hit, what happens? Well, he takes 3 hits, 3 sacks, but goes for 375 yards and 3 touchdowns in the end.
What a monster. Puka Nacua right now is on pace for 178 receptions. That would be an NFL, just smoking it record. 2,138 receiving yards. He also, by the way, I didn't even factor in he also has rushing yards that I can extrapolate. And now we're talking about 4 receiving touchdowns for his pace. And then he had a rushing score before that as well. So easily the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy rest of season. And as long as this Matthew Stafford back injury can hold up, he's going to be a monster. And I do think that NFL records are not safe right now because you're getting all of the layup targets. He's a monster after the catch. Now we're getting the red zone stuff. So this is insane stuff for Puka Nacua. Is right now, the number 1 wide receiver of all time on a per route basis. That is not a exaggeration at all.
He's averaging 22 fantasy points at this moment, 18.1, 23.6, 17.3, and then closed this week with 29 1.5. He's just too damn powerful. Like
It's insane.
Xavier Howard would try to get across from someone else. And just on these slants, it's not OPI. It's just, okay, you can't get your hands on me. I am too big, too strong, just creating separation this way. And then it's constantly routes over the middle of the field that then he catches and either rumbles if he has move or just gets down quite quickly. Just really, I think a one-of-one football player in the NFL right now.
Yeah, truly is. Yeah, he's a special guy. Other Rams question I had on offense was just the split for Kyren and Blake Corum. Anything new? I'm just looking at the snap rate, and it's about 65-35 as
I think it was
promised.
2 drives to 1. Kyren, they were getting chunk gains. And look, his long run was 11 yards, but every time you looked up, it was an 8-yard run, a 7-yard run, a 9-yard run. They were getting incredible push. It makes you wonder, and they didn't need to in the end, but it makes you wonder why they didn't run the football a bit more often. Obviously, they were losing and needed to score 14 in the fourth quarter to win this game, but they were up again 13-10 at halftime. And Kyren looked really good. I wouldn't put the fumble on him. I don't think Sean McVay put the fumble on him. It wasn't like last year's stuff. And then Blake Corum had, a couple positive plays on top of it too. And yeah, I mean, that's basically it from the Rams side. Like Matthew Stafford knows who his really good players are, and they get them the football. I just love those types of offenses. We don't have to guess it all with the Rams.
Yeah. I mean, that's Matthew Stafford's entire career. He's like, I got a good wide receiver. What if we make him the Triple Crown winner? They're doing that again. Simple Colts question for you. How real are the Colts? Like, does this make you feel more confident? Like, this is a team that should be in the NFL playoffs. You're excited to watch them on Wild Card Weekend. Are we like still at that bar right now?
I do wonder what happens when they have turnovers. And look, this game was really close, but they played flawless football in the opening 3 games of this season. Super well coached. Some difficult opponents like in the Denver Broncos, some other easy ones on top of that. But, 2 interceptions from the quarterback, obviously the missed fumble and play from Adonai Mitchell. They are still a really good team. I would have liked for them a bit earlier on, like in that stanza of this game where each team punted about 3 times, to really lean on Jonathan Taylor for one of those. That could have, I think, gone a long way because they really did on that next one that went 11 plays. So maybe pull that lever a bit earlier on. But he did have 17 carries for 76 yards. And then a huge thing that I don't know if it's getting enough run is how involved he is in the passing game this year. Whereas he previously averaged like less than, I think, 2 catches per game in his career. And this one, it's 5 catches for 20 yards. He has other games of like 3 or 4 catches in the season. He's not bad at catching the football. He's never just been utilized in that area in the league. And so while it's not big yardage, that's nice for us to add those points to our team. Yeah,
he's like still a complete full-time player in this offense. So I think before they wanted to save him, this team's like ready to go trying to win some football games. Other question I have for you, would you keep Adonai Mitchell on the active roster like for this next, like would you trust him? Like this is like almost too predictable and like too on the nose with Adonai Mitchell. Like, could you put him on the football field next week if you're the Colts?
Well, I want to stick up for him in this way. He is not the first person to let the football go before he crosses the line of scrimmage.
That makes it worse.
I know. Jonathan Taylor has done it. I think he did multiple times in a season just a couple of years ago. Everyone knows about Deshaun Jackson doing this. That is not to say like you should not do this. He absolutely, made a massive blunder and a massive mistake. The other part is he also had 2 other catches in this game and was basically, outperforming Josh Downs, obviously outperforming Ashton Doolin, and had some other moments that were positive. The issue is that play then really got to him the rest of the game where he was kind of like doing small circles on the sideline while everyone else is kind of huddling. And you can tell wasn't mentally getting over it. Yeah. And then, the conversation all week isn't just of the fumble. It's also going to be about the holding that stripped away a sick, long touchdown run for JT. So it's not just one mistake, it's compounded by 2. And you'll have to answer all those questions this week. That's for sure. Yeah.
Alec Pierce comes back next week with a concussion, most likely. And
then he's not going to touch the field because of that.
For sure. If it's your first touchdown, the coolest celebration is you get out into the end zone and you hold both of that stuff and you find your guy on the sideline to keep that ball, tuck it away, ship it.
I do think he was trying to like switch it over hands. It was different than, just dropping it before you cross the goal line. He literally like mishandled it going over. I'm not saying it wasn't bad. It's absolutely bad, but it was a different action than we have seen people just drop it before they get there. It was going here and then mishandled.
Probably to like hit the nene or some shit.
I don't know. The catch was sick. And I'll remember that as well. Josh Downs, again, even in a game that they were needing to score points in the fourth quarter, and they didn't have positive game script like they have for many of the other contests this season.
Yeah.
Still just gets 4 for 24 on 5 targets with a long gain of 8. There were a couple moments where he found some really nice soft zone coverage and those types of things.
Yeah.
But he just does not have the ceiling of Tyler Warren in this offense. He doesn't have the ceiling of Michael Pittman in this offense.
Nope.
And certainly the rushing game.
Yeah. And shout out, you got one. Tyler Warren goal line rushing score. It's something you talked about. We got one up the middle there, and then good to see him with 6 receptions in this one. So I think like this last week is more the normal Tyler Warren stat line. The Colts are not going to be winning all these games for the rest of the season. They're going to be in more affairs like this one, and getting 6 receptions being a focal point of the offense, I do think is more of his baseline as like a for sure top 5 tight end.
Not often that Chiefs Ravens lasts until the 5th game of the Instant Recap Show, which, by the way, if you're tuning in still, hit that subscribe button. Do us a massive, massive favor. It's because the Chiefs dominated this one 37-20. I remember the last time the Chiefs scored 37 points. Hayden?
Yep.
Incredible stuff. Is all that they needed. Xavier Worthy. I mean, I say that tongue in cheek, but I see Xavier Worthy as the team's leading receiver with 2 carries for 38 yards, and also the team's leading receiver with 5 catches and 83 yards.
The Xavier Worthy impact was felt immediately. They were testing it. He got face mask drugged down to the floor and his shoulder popped up, ready to go. They would give him an end around for an explosive play, and he was heavily involved. He beat Marlon Humphrey one-on-one down the field for a reception. We haven't seen that in a little bit. And then in the very last drive, like when this game was like well put away, they gave him another swing pass for some reason, up 37-13. So he didn't play all the snaps in this one. Was he used the second he was on the field? Absolutely. And for the next 2 weeks without Rashee Rice, you should feel extremely confident and I'll say blessed to have Xavier Worthy. This offense felt so dramatically different. Travis Kelce, only 5 catches for 48 yards, but they were impactful ones. I thought he showed some short area burst. He crossed Roquan Smith's face for a nice play for a first down here. He was a constant chain mover. Juju Smith-Schuster found in the end zone where Patrick Mahomes threw a laser beam to him. You even get Tyquan Thornton over the middle into the end zone. And then Hollywood Brown late in the game crossing kind of a runaway route. So every player, they have a role. Juju sit there, Tyquan and Hollywood run by guys, and then Xavier Worthy do kind of everything. And then Travis Kelce work over the middle. Everyone felt more in place in their role, which is promising because Rashee Rice is going to come back in a couple weeks. The offensive line held up in this one. They could still not run the ball. They got Pacheco on a little kind of fancy play in the red area for a score, but like the down-to-down rushing ability still not there. But Patrick Mahomes looked like the MVP of the season in this one, and you just felt that they're actually like passing the ball downfield. They were threatening the Ravens defense down the field. So I feel very, very confident where the Chiefs are, where Patrick Mahomes is in fantasy. And this team feels like, even though they're 2-2, this feels like a very dangerous Kansas City Chiefs team. And sometimes it takes a month or two for the Chiefs to feel that way. After this game in week 4, this is a statement win for the Chiefs, where I feel very good about where the rest of their season looks, at least on offense.
According to Next Gen Stats, Patrick Mahomes thrived in the quick game, completing 17 of 22 for 142 yards and 3 touchdowns on throws under 2.5 seconds. His most quick touchdowns since week 1 of 2022. He's averaging the second fastest time to throw among his quarterbacks this season at 2.53.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff is just all the BS stuff to Pacheco and Xavier Worthy and whatnot. They still had some passes, 15, 20 yards down the field. He had one incompletion, 40 yards down the field to Xavier Worthy. He had the reception for 35 yards down the field. So you just felt like there was this team actually might throw the ball over our heads. All that said, the Baltimore Ravens right now are not a good football team, not because of anything that they could have done to prevent this. They are so banged up, especially on defense. Kyle Van Noy, the edge rusher, Matabuke, their defensive tackle, a superstar, both didn't play in this game leading into it. Even another defensive tackle or 2 defensive tackles were ruled out. And then in the middle of this game, Roquan Smith pulls up with a hamstring injury after Travis Kelce cooks him. Nate Wiggins is going to tackle, I think it's Pacheco out in space. He leaves with an elbow shoulder injury on a cart. That's their top corner. And then somebody else left in this one too. So all of a sudden their defense, like 7 or 8 guys that are supposed to be playing are not playing. And right now it's like Kyle Hamilton, like kind of pointing and shooting, and they can't rush the passer. So like obviously the Chiefs had this dominant win, but that's like to me absolutely a huge storyline. And that doesn't even get to the offensive side of the ball, where the Baltimore Ravens lost Ronnie Stanley early in this one with the same lingering ankle injury. The rest of the offensive line has not been good this season. Lamar Jackson's taking more sacks than usual. Derrick Henry, they're not even like trying to run the ball. Derrick Henry finished with 8 carries in this one once again. And then Lamar Jackson leaves with a hamstring injury, which you can tell that he was a little bit bothered by it, but also the scoreboard was so lopsided. So I'm not sure if it's going to be a multi-week injury, but Lamar Jackson's coming back, and I'm not sure if Stanley's going to be out there. The defense is completely obliterated. And then there was a lot of times where, just at least on the broadcast angle of this, where Zay Flowers, Bateman, Mark Andrews, all these guys, DeAndre Hopkins, they would blitz them. Lamar would be looking at a guy and would just not have enough time before that wide receiver would get wide open. So this seems like, after watching this one, after all those injuries, this is not a great Ravens team. They need to get healthier before we can start putting them back in the conversation. There's still plenty of time to figure it out. The division's not that potent without Joe Burrow right now, but like for the next week or two until they get some of these bodies back, it's not a elite team.
Because going into this game, the conversation was, well, damn, one of these teams is going to be 1-3. It turns out to be the Ravens, but based on where their roster's at right now, they kind of look like a 1-3 team. Now, losing against, the Bills in the fashion that they did, certainly not fun, but it just keeps stacking up for them. And this is a pretty big concern for Derrick Henry. I don't want to say anything stupid here, but Derrick Henry was so amazing last year on this team because of the positive game scripts. But when they go into these negative game scripts, he's just not that player. And so, he doesn't get receptions. He doesn't get snaps. And this is what makes Justice Hill the number 3 scoring running back this week with 26.2 points, because they're constantly battling back in this one. And he had 3 carries for 76 yards and a score, and then had 5 receptions for 41 yards and a score.
This makes like Justice Hill like the better in best ball type of play. So obviously the 71-yarder showed a lot of bursts in that one, and that was in complete garbage time, but he was the fastest player on the field for that snap. And then he had some garbage time receptions leading into that, a little flick for a red zone touchdown as well. So yeah, he was the most impressive. Like the Zay Flowers receptions, there was a couple cheap ones late in the game. He was not a 7 for 74 player in this one, but that's what his box score ended up being, just because of garbage time. Rashad Bateman didn't step up. DeAndre Hopkins, there was a key play. Did want to give one shout out to Spags. This is not an elitely talented Chiefs team. The thing about all the secondary pieces they've lost over the years, and they have not like hit on edge rushers in the draft. They were doing one thing to Lamar Jackson and it seemed to be working. They would rush with 3 and then have a spy. And then they would also do a bunch of stunts and stuff. So it was harder for Lamar Jackson to like find that crease and hit it as a scrambler. And he took 3 sacks as well. And this one only had 6 rushing yards, or 6 carries for 48 rushing yards. So that ended up working. And they were like making Lamar Jackson, like convert some tight window throws. And he was like not pulling the trigger on them. I'm sure some of that's blamed on Lamar Jackson. Some of it is blamed on the offensive line, and some of it's blamed on the receivers not getting open. But that was a cool wrinkle from Spags, who obviously has faced Lamar Jackson a million times. But that to me was like a little bit of a blueprint on how you would be able to handle Lamar Jackson with his offensive line being what it is.
Yeah, look, I'm not telling people who drafted Derrick Henry to be terrified, but if the Ravens are worse this year than they have been in recent years, then you're just going to have fewer Derrick Henry games. Like if they get away from them, especially if the defense is like this, then he is one of the most impacted by game script in the NFL. Like if you go down by 10 points, he's just not seeing the field.
He's not on the field. He ran 7 routes this game. They had like 41 dropbacks. He's like not on the field. The next 2 weeks for the Ravens, real quick, while they're battling all these injuries. And I don't know the severity of all this stuff. These guys can be back. These guys can be out months. The Matabuki one seems they're talking about that one. It's a neck injury. That one's making me pretty nervous. He's one of their best players on the team. Versus the Texans and then versus the Rams. So if Ronnie Stanley's not healthy, that is a bad offensive line, no doubt about it, against 3 of the best pass rushers in the game the next couple weeks. So I'll be tracking this one closely. They're very lucky that Joe Burrow's banged up, and it's the Browns and I guess the Steelers. So they can crawl back, but right now it's not the Baltimore Ravens that we're used to.
Next week for the Chiefs, it is the Jacksonville Jaguars on the road on Monday Night Football, and then the Detroit Lions. So those are the first 6 games, and they get to week 7 and get Rashee Rice back. And after that, it's the Raiders and the Commanders after that. So that's going to be a really nice runway.
They're watchable. You should be excited to watch the Chiefs the next couple of weeks.
Wait.
It's good stuff.
Even if they can't run the ball still.
Well, that's better. More Patrick Mahomes.
Over to the Chiefs' rivals in the AFC. Yes, the Buffalo Bills remain 4-0 at home as they take the feisty, frisky New Orleans Saints down to 0-4. This game was a lot closer than many people expected. And, without a Khalil Shakir opening touchdown where he vintage stuff, 43-yard screen pass, he broke a Demario Davis spinning tackle and stayed up and then ran away from the other defensive backs with a sweet block by Dalton Kincaid. Without that, who knows what this game is like? Spencer Rattler, again, someone who was highly competitive, scrambled a number of times, had 6 carries for 49 yards here. They were able to get a Kendre Miller 18-yard touchdown run where he also runs through 3 Bills defenders. Then James Cook, short yardage score, his 8th rushing score in 8 consecutive games, takes it to 14-7 here. But Josh Allen threw, I think, 2. He should have had 2 first half interceptions. The first one went to the safety named Sanker, who was all over the field for the Saints defense. And the second one hit Charlie Warner between his 2 numbers, and he couldn't catch it. Really, halftime and just before it was another game-changing moment here. The Saints on 3rd and goal inside the 10-yard line tried a Philly special, and Chris Olave just slightly underthrows Spencer Rattler. It was a one-handed interception by Cole Bishop. Again, that touchdown would have taken it to 17-14 for the Saints to be leading. And instead, obviously, it's just 14-10. And even a field goal there would have brought it to a 1-score game. And as we know, the rest of the way, the Saints only scored 9 points. James Cook is just fantastic to go through individuals here. He had 22 carries for 117 yards and 1 score. Dalton Kincaid, on his only catch in this game, catches it down the rail again for a touchdown for 28 yards. And then the opposite end, while Chris Olave did throw an interception, we also did get a receiving score for Olave on just 6 targets, 3 catches for 20 yards. And then another notable thing here is, once again, Alvin Kamara just not heavily involved in the receiving game. Just 4 catches, 2 yards when they're constantly working from behind in the second half, with Rashid Shaheed going 4 for 47 and Juwan Johnson 3 for 28 on 3 targets.
Yeah, for the Alvin Kamara folks out there, did not get a screen in this one. And then, only having the 4 receptions, a little bit disappointing in general here. But good to see Kendre Miller fight and kind of make this a little bit of more of a 1-2 punch. It's been a long time since Alvin Kamara have had some competition. So obviously not good for Alvin Kamara on both of those fronts. I got nervous about my PPR scam with Chris Olave because I checked my box score and he was in the negatives. So I wasn't loving that. So I guess we got some regression, scores a touchdown here, but 6 targets was a little bit disappointing. But yeah, the Saints in general, man, they're definitely bad at football, but they've got some fight to them. I think that they're relatively well coached. Their offensive line is battling out there as well. The pressure numbers look good in this one, according to the spreadsheet. So excited to go back and watch this one with more details. Anything like Juwan Johnson, Shaheed, or anything like that?
Nope. Juwan took a pretty nasty fall along the sideline that was super awkward, but he immediately went back in. They just ran the football a lot. It was, 26 design runs between Kamara and Kendre Miller, which again makes sense after watching the Buffalo Bills get run over by the Baltimore Ravens. And then, as I mentioned, Spencer Rattler, each of those guys, Kamara had a 17-yard run. Kendre had an 18-yard run. Spencer Rattler had a 15-yard run. Cesar Ruiz, their guard, did leave in this game for a large portion. I'm not sure if he actually finished. And that is notable for a team that is going to heavily rely on their offensive line. Yeah, maybe this defense played really well too. They had a 4th down stop, 3 straight stops on a 2nd and 5, then a 3rd and 2, then a 4th and 1 against this Bills rushing attack. Kellen Moore, they're 0-4. They don't have their quarterback of the future. Brandon Staley was giving Keon Coleman 12 yards of cushion which really makes no sense, just giving him easy receptions early on. And just kind of despite all that, this team pushes it until the very end. And that is very appreciative when you're watching other bad teams across the league where they kind of like wave the white flag. You know, you're not getting that here with the Saints, and they're actually going to try for all 4 quarters.
Yeah, they're missing some offensive linemen and Chase Young, their top edge rusher right now too. So the fact that they're not like completely rolling over is like just pretty cool to see for an 0-4 football team. Yeah, on the Kincaid stuff real quick, he's like a top 8 tight end, but you are going to have to live with the weeks where he catches 1 pass for 8 yards. You know, like that's going to happen eventually. He's still not a full-time player, 17 of 29 routes. It's just the benefit is when you play for the Bills and you're projected for 31 and you score for 31, you're flipping some decent coins for touchdowns. So that's the nature of the business with Kincaid. He's never going to be a high volume guy, but could he have 8 touchdowns playing for the Bills this year? Absolutely. He's on pace for it.
It's a winning streak for the Chicago Bears as they beat the Las Vegas Raiders 25-24 with, yes, Hayden, another blocked field goal to end this one. Daniel Carlson lining up for, I think, a 55-yarder, and it doesn't even go 5 yards as the Bears overcome a nasty, nasty start where they ran 35 plays in the first half for just 90 yards, but all 4 quarters, it is very needed. First, let's focus on the Raiders end of this. It's like a dichotomy here with the passing game versus the rushing attack. The positives, Ashton Jeanty, 21 carries, 138 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 receptions, 17 yards, another 2 scores. Electric stuff. And what I saw is finally, for the first time against this weakened Bears defense, he wasn't just given the first level, he was given the second level and the third level on top of it. And he shrugged defenders at every single stage. When that's the case, and as we said, when Ashton Jeanty gets some blocking, he's going to make magic happen. And magic took place here.
Yeah, he seemed to have the it factor on that long run getting to the second level. It was speed. It was obviously the contact balance. All of that was fantastic stuff. And he was just like ripping up big plays throughout this one. It was refreshing to see for Jeanty. And obviously he hit predictably so against the Chicago Bears. They're missing the defensive tackle, linebackers, and safety. We're going to start everybody against the Chicago Bears. But he looked the part. And the big news for this moving forward, in the receiving game, Ashton Jeanty, 18 routes on 23 dropbacks. So only 2 receptions. They happened to both go for touchdowns. And on at least one of them had to shrug somebody off for the score. I'm not sure if that, Dylan Laube or Raheem Mostert or Zamir White is going to do that. So that was refreshing. Give the guy that you drafted really high a bunch of touches and good things are going to happen.
I do wonder like what the threshold here is though for the Raiders run blocking. I know that Colton Miller left like the second to last play, which by the way, on 3rd and 1, they run directly in his direction and lose a yard to make it a 55-yard field goal that they just settle for. So like, what is it here? Do they have to face a Bears defensive front every week to give him space? Does it have to be like a bottom 5 defensive line to face off with? I'm not sure if it's going to be, that binary on a week-to-week basis. Right. I think what is binary is Ashton Jeanty is really good. And if he doesn't have negative yards before contact behind the line of scrimmage when paired with the tape of him constantly getting hit behind the line of scrimmage, then he can be a very, very productive back. I don't expect 3 touchdown games, but just hopefully he's given more than, 2 times that he gets to the second level free. Right.
Well, like early in the game, I tweeted out Ashton Jeanty on a 4th and 1 got absolutely smoked, 4 yards, fumbled it, had no chance. The freaking nose tackle went untouched. So this team's going to have some flaws. And like, he's not only going to beat up on bad rushing defenses. Obviously it increases the odds to me, like as much as like the rushing success was cool to see. The fact that he's out there on passing downs to me is increases his fantasy stock moving forward because the Raiders are not a good football team. Their defense is not very good. And this team's going to be trailing plenty this season. So we don't want to get Derrick Henry and like game scripted out. But in this one, when the game was close and when they're trailing and stuff, if he's involved, to me, that just like provides a floor here. So he's obviously talented, no question about that. I still like him. I think in my rankings this week, he's like my running back 13. I think I'm kind of going to start around there, depending on injuries and buys and stuff. So I would call him like a low end fantasy running back 1, even with like the environment around him.
And some of the tackles he was shedding, it looked like he was, out there against Wyoming and stuff, just shrugging off NFL defenders. It was really cool to see that translate. On the opposite end, you have Geno Smith with 3 interceptions, dig routes, safeties driving, coming up with those. Not a great week for that
No.
when you should have this game in hand when, the other team only starts playing offense in the second half and doesn't get a running game going for the entire game. And so I don't know, with also Max Crosby taking it over on the defensive side, certainly being left down by one aspect in 1/3 of the game here.
Yeah, no, Geno Smith was horrific in this one. The interceptions were all his fault, all bad. He didn't seem to be under that much pressure either, which is like not a surprise facing the Chicago Bears. To have those 3 interceptions is beyond brutal in this one. I was watching for Brock Bowers. He still got that huge knee brace on. I thought he was moving maybe a little bit better out in space, but only 6 targets in this one, 5 for 46. Like that's still solid stuff, but that's not second round numbers at all right now. So still like waiting for more there. But yeah, they were more balanced this week than they were previously. And like this was like the game where like we want everybody to show off because they're at home, no weather concerns, and it's the Chicago Bears, and the Chicago Bears with 4 starters ruled out. So pretty tough loss for them. They're 1-3, 0-2 at home. So not looking good for the Raiders' chances at a wild card.
They went 2-9 on 3rd and 4th downs in this game. And that compares to the Bears, who went 8 for 17 on 3rd and 4th downs. I'm not sure if you saw this, but at the halftime interview, Ben Johnson, I think, was asked by Aditi, like, hey, what's going on? What's going wrong? And he like stares a hole in her soul and says, we're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. And they were fine in the second half. I can't comment too much on this offense. I was watching another game, but Caleb does finish 22 of 37, 212. Yep. His passing touchdown goes to Rome Odunze on a 27-yarder over the middle of the field, which you absolutely love to see. And then again, it's something I'm going to bring up, and I know that they're 2-2 and they've won these games, but especially in the first half, 0 rushing attack. DeAndre Swift does get there with a goal line touchdown at the end on 14 carries, 38 yards, and 1 score. He does catch another 4 passes for 22 yards, but then, it's Kawanangai for 4 for 18. So just a lack of efficient, successful rushing attack would combat someone like Max Crosby in the passing game. But it's just not there yet right now.
Yeah. Darnell Wright injured, and then Max Crosby on the books. You're just going to be under more pressure than typical for Caleb. So it was cool that touchdown to Rome Odunze, that was on a 3rd and long situation. So we're starting to see Caleb Williams like play, where his feet aren't leaving the pocket. He knows where to go with it, throwing with some anticipation, even in some tougher spots in this one. So that was good to see. Cole Kmet without Colson Loveland has 9 targets. He only had 3 for 46, but anytime you see a tight end getting 9 targets, that has my attention. And this is like another game with DJ Moore where you're on pace to finish well outside the top 36 fantasy wide receivers. So he had 5 targets. He's had either 5 or 6 in every single game. Those have been some blowouts, those blowout wins, blowout losses, some close games. He's just no longer the focal point in like the standard drop back game because Rome Odunze has ascended with 8 targets. So I think without a doubt, DJ Moore is like, I would say, a guy to trade away. He's a bye week flex play, a wide receiver 3. But we're not going to get as many schemed up touches just because I feel like they're going to trust Caleb Williams more and more like in the normal drop back game.
Let's talk about another second-year quarterback whose team is also 2-2. That is the New England Patriots, winning 42-13 here at home against the Carolina Panthers. In the end, by the way, I called it. Drake May, first rushing score, end zone celebration, the Cam Newton. I knew it. I knew my guy, Drake May, was going to get there. He just needs to hit the dab the next time. Super efficient here, 14 of 17, 203 yards, 2 scores to go along with his rushing score of 5 yards. Stephon Diggs pops up here with 6 for 101. Hayden, if you could pull up the snap numbers, I would be very interested in Stephon Diggs one, because what he was doing is just being an incredibly veteran player, finding soft areas and not really having to win against man coverage. But it was a lot of intermediate to deeper completions that one was on like 3rd and 15. And there wasn't another Panthers defender within like 7 yards of him, but he found that soft spot and soft space, and Drake May hits him there. And that is something that this team was like really missing, was a legit wide receiver. And so I do wonder if that is an area and a lever that they can pull moving forward.
in the first 3 quarters before complete garbage time, 18 of 20 routes for Steph Diggs.
Beautiful.
That is an increase there. A-Dot, like you mentioned, more downfield stuff, 13 yards down the field on his targets. So that is a graduation. It also makes some sense, just looking at like the progression coming off the torn ACL. So that's good to see. Like this, Drake May's playing good enough ball right now where if there is somebody that can step up to the plate, like we've seen with Hunter Henry, that this offense is at least on par to be an above average to average offense right now. Drake May's playing good ball, and just want to point this out. Seems like Jaden Daniels, Caleb, and Drake May in this draft class are starting to separate from everybody else. Who could have seen that coming? The top 3 prospects in that draft.
Hunter Henry, and look, this is a Sunday night and 2 Monday night games to play. Hunter Henry is the tight end 1 on the season at this moment. Adds another 10.9 here with 2 catches for 39. His 31-yard score. Panthers players just decided not to tackle him. Pretty easy. And he almost scored another one near the goal line too. And then the running back conversation is a massive one here, but it's really not that big of a conversation because it's a 3-headed backfield. Ramondre Stevenson got the start, gets 9 carries for 38 yards. The second snap, Trevion Henderson comes in. His goal line touchdown was all on a Trevion Henderson drive, which he dominated. But at the same time, that did not mean the next drive was a Hinto drive and the next one after that. They're just rotating these guys. Antonio Gibson got a jet sweep touchdown and then was the goal line back on, or jet sweep gain, I should say. And then another one was a short yardage touchdown for him as well. So they didn't have to push the pedal to the floor for all 4 quarters, but it just seems like no one was punished for last week. Hendo did have a pass pro holding in this game too. He wasn't punished for that. I do think that that is notable. At the same time, we are still having to deal with not just a 2-person backfield here, but a 3-person backfield.
Yeah, and this is in a 42-13 win as well. So the fact that they're rotating these guys is notable. I have the expected points. I ran it early. 7.8 for Trevion Henderson, half PPR points. Ramondre Stevenson, 7.0. Antonio Gibson, 6.2. So, I mean, that's about as even as it possibly can get. Snaps between Ramondre and Trevion basically heads up. So we're now in the bye week zone. We're dealing with some injuries and stuff. You could throw Trevion and Ramondre in there as a flex play, but like if you're in first place in your league, you probably have better options than these 2 guys. So it's a wait and see until somebody graduates. Wait and see.
On the opposite end, the Panthers opened this one with a 7-play, 76-yard touchdown drive. In fact, I think they outscored with almost like a minute left in the first quarter, the Patriots 120-3. But after that touchdown drive, it went punt, missed field goal, punt, end of half, turnover on downs, punt, turnover on downs, and then an Andy Dalton to Mitchell Evans touchdown when the game was at 42-6. Every which way you think that this could have gone bad for the Panthers, it did. On defense, first of all, they were without, and this is something we probably should have pointed out. They were without both DJ Wanham and Pat Jones. Mm-hmm. So DJ Johnson had to be in there, and Josh McDaniels was super smart in that he was running misdirection to DJ Johnson's side all game. And so that would force DJ up the field. He would lose contain. And that's when you got the Antonio Gibson stuff to the outside or a tight end running right by him. And he basically gave up, touchdowns by himself. And then on top of it, the Patriots had 2 punt returns that equaled 160 yards. One of them from, I believe his name is Jack Jones, went for a long return touchdown where 2 Panthers were right there. And instead of fair catching it, he caught it and just went right by them. They didn't even try to tackle him. Mm-hmm. And then another, he just weaved and almost returned it to the house and got tackled by the punter. For the passing game, Tedder McMillan does finish with 8 targets, 4 receptions, 62, which sounds nice. It didn't look nice. He had a 20-yard drop. He also had, I think he did have a sideline one that he came down with. Then there was a 4th and 5 on a double move in the red zone that he and Bryce just weren't on the same page, and Bryce overthrows him for 2 or 3 yards. So we don't have that big T-Mac play yet. He has drops in back-to-back weeks, which is totally fine. He is a rookie, but this is one of those where nothing goes right for the Panthers after last week winning 30-0. And it just shows you like this team they haven't played a normal game all season and they have no identity right now.
Yeah, it's really tough scenes for Carolina. I think they're well within range for first overall pick right now, just based off how things are going. The good news for like Tetaroa, you get the Dolphins and the Cowboys, and I'll even throw the Jets in over the next 3 games. So I think that there should be at least some garbage time, if not some close game scripts for him to take on. The Chuba stuff, it's hard with him. Like he's like you said, we've not had a normal game. Like part of the signing up for Chuba Hubbard was this Panthers team is going to look a little bit better than it did in the previous 2 seasons, and it just hasn't. Like Bryce Young's stats look exactly how they have.
Yeah, the fascinating part of it though is last year Bryce became, a downfield thrower. Like they were hitting it 15 to 25 yards down the field constantly. Like they were looking for those big time throws, those big plays. And this year, everything is close to the line of scrimmage. It's like 5 or 6 yards. They're not doing, and I think part of that is these crazy game scripts, that it's not the under center, drop back game, shot plays, those types of things. I also believe part of that is the wide receiver room outside of T-Mac right now, where it's just him. David Moore left after the first play of this game with an injury. Another wide receiver left right after that, who was just signed from someone else's practice squad. And so they had 3 wide receivers for the remainder of the game, and T-Mac and Bryson Tremaine and Hunter Renfrow, who can't run 20 yards.
Yeah, he only had 1 completion beyond 10 air yards today for
Right.
Bryce. So yeah, we're at 2 1/4 seasons for Bryce Young. They're 1-3. Like you tweeted out, Tepper, his record as an owner is
I
horrific.
think 37 and 83 since he bought the team.
Yeah, and the defense is just miserable once again. Special teams miserable and stuff. So I don't know what to even say about the Carolina Panthers. Everything seems pathetic except for I'll throw out Tedero McMillan and some of their defensive tackle play. But yeah sometimes
the Dolphins and the Cowboys for them next. Again, not having a normal game played through 4 means you don't know who they are, and we can't extrapolate anything from this. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's really bad. Tommy Tremble, real quick, 8 targets here in the first game without Jatavian Sanders. He looked a little bit banged up with that. And then Mitchell Evans, who we kind of liked as a draft prospect, scores a touchdown in garbage time. But I mean,
all right, we'll swing it back to Thursday before asking some questions about the other Sunday games. All the way back on Thursday, the Seattle Seahawks win 23-20 over the Arizona Cardinals. Speaking of not knowing who you are, the Cardinals, they are just the same team from last year. Over and over and over again. You hear, coach speak, this and that. We're going to change things here and there. But they just continue to play the exact same style where Kyler drops back or attempts 41 passes, gets sacked 6 times. And then the big change here was Marvin Harrison Jr. having an abysmal start to the game, but finishing with 10 targets, 6 receptions, 66 yards, and a nice contested catch over Devon Witherspoon for the touchdown. But then, Hayden, it's just not enough, because this team continues to feel very first ready and very limited. And when off script, not many great things happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the Seahawks defense could really get after it up front, and that really took away the ground game, predictably so. So Trey Benson will have better games than what he had. I thought Kyler Murray played fine. I think that the interceptions were obviously not really his fault. You have the drop one, then the Marvin Harrison got so locked up on that dig route that he's gave up on the play, and that went the other way. So lucky that Marvin Harrison, at the catch point, started coming down with a couple ones. So that was good to see, a little redemption from him, but still not seen the full graduation from Marvin Harrison, which is a problem once you lose James Conner. And then the defense is trying to hold the line, but they're down a lot of starters right now. So to me, this is the same, this is a 7-win team, they're going to be in close games. They can upset any team. They can also lose to any team in the NFL. And if they can't run the ball, it just makes you ask a lot for Kyler Murray, who's I think a fine player, but obviously limited. And the more you ask of him, the worse the results end up getting. So tough team.
I can look on the schedule who they're going to beat. They're facing the Titans next week. They should beat the Titans next week. Then it's the Colts and the Packers. Good luck. Then the Cowboys. maybe they beat them. Yeah. It's kind of a bland and boring team to me. As weird as that sounds, with the projected points that we get by Vegas heading into the season, and it's just not clicking.
Yeah,
it's not clicking in terms of taking the second level.
I think they can use another receiver. They need a bankable guy to throw with some speed on the outside. This is the third year of the team. I can see the Cardinals being one of these teams where it's like, we better make the damn playoffs this year. And they feel like they're a team that's missing a piece on either side. So I'll pay attention to them during the trade discussions. They lack like speed. I love Trey McBride. He's a very good football player. Another 11 targets here. Marvin Harrison can obviously make some plays, but with Michael Wilson out there and they use 2 tight ends and Greg Dortch is whatever to me. This team just like needs some freaking juice, you know? Yeah. And you can only rely on the Kyler Murray scramble stuff to whatever degree.
They've scored 20 points, 27 points, 15, and 20 to open this season so far. The other part of this is with 28 seconds to go, you score a touchdown, and then either you could tie it up with the extra point or you could go for it and to win the game, hopefully in regulation. Now, again, there's 28 seconds left. It's not a walk-off play, but 2 sides of this. One, Jonathan Gannon gets up there all the time and says, hey, I want, fiery leaders who have grit, so on and so forth, who are aggressive. And then like in this moment, he's not aggressive versus like in his first year as the head coach, he was that way. And I don't know if something changed, if it's their short yardage stuff that he doesn't love.
Yeah, I think it's that.
And then the other part of this is I know for a long time, analytics pointed in the direction of, hey, you should always go for it in regulation, even if you're at home and you feel like you have momentum and all these types of things, you should go for it. Now those have updated. I know Kevin Cole and some other ones that have done all the numbers through the spreadsheets have now actually suggested with everything being updated, you should actually go and play for overtime. So maybe by the numbers, it was the correct decision. I just wanted to bring up both ends of this.
Yeah, on that, I think they don't have a good offensive line, and then Trey Benson's so hit and miss, like not a success rate guy that they'd probably try to dial something up play action wise to Trey McBride or throw it up to Marvin Harrison. It's just like not a great situation for them, especially against like this front seven for Seattle. So I didn't have a problem with that. They obviously had that big flub up on the special teams play, and I think that was kind of
that's the number one thing is you can't kick the ball a yard short.
No, and like they're just trying to be greedy, like saving some, like trying to get the ball in play to waste some clock, but you can't risk like the ball being on the 40-yard line or whatever the penalty was. So that was really bad. I think like to me, the biggest storyline out of this game to me continues just to be like Sam Darnold, man. Like he's really high up there in EPA per play. I don't know what it is, but he's like top 3, top 4. And the same thing with the PFF grades and stuff. And then my eyes, I watch all the Sam Darnold games. He's more poised than ever. This is like not a great offensive line for Seattle. He's making the most out of it. He's in like some favorable play action plays, but he can throw the ball downfield. He's throwing the ball on the run really well. And he just seems to be like in control of another new offense for him. So like, and that contract is nothing. I mean, on the grand scheme of things, the next couple of years, his cap hits, and there's not even like guaranteed money on this. So if this thing goes sideways and get out of it, but with the way he's playing, this would be one of the best contracts in the NFL, point blank period. And they didn't even have to spend a draft pick to get him. So like this to me is just like one of those things where like you compare Sam Darnold versus Geno Smith. So far, it's like clearly Sam Darnold, and they got a draft pick and they're saving money to do that. So like one of these shrewd moves from the Seattle Seahawks.
Made some amazing throws, and we know what this identity is. It's, Clint Kubiak with multiple tight end sets, 2 wide receivers for the most part, some shot plays with 3 wide receivers on the field. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I don't mean this in a negative way. When you can minimize Sam to like 29 dropbacks in this style of an offense with some offensive line questions, then you can have some awesome throws that change the course for you when the rest of the time, you have 35 carries on top of this. This is exactly who they want to be. And it's great. Mm-hmm. And it's, I think, a really enjoyable watch on a weekly basis. We'll dive more into this in stats versus film. I do just want to mention like the Ken Walker versus Zach Charbonnet stuff from week 1. Like after that happened, I think we have to let go. One of these guys is going to run away with a backfield, and we should all just accept that this is going to be a split backfield. When you watch a game and you say, I can't believe they're not giving this guy the football enough. I mean, Ken Walker had 20 touches, the most of anyone in this game. Like 20 touches when you look across the league is a lot.
Solid.
And he gets 110 yards. If you tell me every single week that Kenneth Walker III is going to get 20 touches in an NFL game, I will take it. So I understand it's very frustrating when the other guy gets a goal line touchdown and nearly has another one. I think one of those, like Ken Walker had a play before and he like waved to the sideline to come in
Yeah,
as well.
that was after he lost like 5 opportunities in that because he was sitting on the sidelines.
And then obviously he had the personal foul where he threw the ball in the Cardinals defender's direction after he twisted his ankle. So look, it was a roller coaster. It was up and down. After that happened though, Ken Walker started the second half. So it's not like he is doghoused here. Again, it's a split backfield. That is what they're telling us. This is how it's going to be moving forward. For one, did I expect it to be a basically 50-50 split heading into the season? No. But at the same time, does Ken Walker fit a Clint Kubiak rushing scheme very well? Yes. And so again, I'm not saying we're definitely going to get 20 touches, but if we do on a weekly basis, then you get, these 29-yard receptions, 21-yard rushes. And we still haven't gotten that one long Kenneth Walker run for a score yet. All right, we did not get full eyes on the rest of these games. We'll ask some questions. Did watch the first half of Steelers 24, Vikings 21. With Jaylen Warren a surprise inactive, Kenny Gainwell pops up and Hayden posts the second most points of week 4 with 28.4, 19 carries, 99 yards, 2 scores, and catches another 6 for 35.
Yep, number 1 in running back usage as well, pending a couple games here. So he was a complete smash play. I undersold him. I got everything wrong in this one. That's what happens overseas. But yeah, he went out there and dominated touches. Caleb Johnson still only had 6 carries in this one. The Steelers had a lead here for a decent amount of this game as well. So yeah, cool to see. And it makes me a little bit nervous about Jaylen Warren. Like the fact that he can just get similar production or better production with Kenny Gainwell just makes his like firm grasp with like top 10 running back usage, I think, very flimsy. So we'll see. And then also DK Metcalf, who I was very much shitting on going into this matchup, just cross his face. And if he crosses face, he can catch the ball. That boy can run. That boy can run.
Hand up, didn't expect it. We didn't see an explosive play from him all season long. And that 80-yarder immediately changed that in this one. So yeah. Guys, we do our best to predict the future, and sometimes it's going to go against what we predict. And that's definitely what happened here with the Steelers offense. On Minnesota's side, I can't really comment on anything. Like I know Carson Wentz, 350, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 6 sacks taken here. They lose their center and Ryan Kelly with a concussion. Then right tackle Brian O'Neill exits as well. That definitely doesn't go well in their favor here. But Jordan Mason continues to own this backfield with 16 carries that only equaled 57 yards, and then another 3 catches for 15.
But my boy Xavier Scott, preseason darling from the tape, pops in there for 8 targets in this one in garbage time. You can't rely on that, but he's a good football player. Like he's got some pop there. So yeah, I think that for the Vikings, kind of just zooming out, they're staying overseas for another one. We'll see how JJ McCarthy's ankle's feeling after 2 interceptions and 6 sacks here. But the Vikings went into this offseason upgrading the offensive line. Well, their left guard, first rounder Donovan Jackson, he was out. Ryan Kelly, this is back-to-back weeks with concussions. And then right tackle Brian O'Neill, I think it's like an ankle sprain, knee sprain situation. We'll see how long he's out for. But I mean, that's 3 of their best offensive linemen. So it's not as clean of a situation. So at least Carson Wentz in garbage time had some monster numbers and understood the assignment, throw the ball to Justin Jefferson as much as you can. So that was cool to see Justin Jefferson back over 100 yards.
Yeah, I'll be really interested to see, and I'll go back and watch this game tomorrow. And we'll talk about in stats versus film, because you have the 350 yards, and then you have the 2 INTs and 6 sacks. And I know he got back to his trebuchet ways in terms of planting and not being able to run away from pressure and all that type of stuff. So yeah, again, like you said, they're playing in London next week, and then they have a bye week. You would like to think that is again going to be Carson Wentz and then JJ after the bye week, but we will see. We will definitely see what happens. Okay. Atlanta Falcons 34, Washington Commanders 27. By the way, Brentley was on a pre-planned vacation. He will be back here next week. So we'll have more games covered next week on top of this. There's a great tweet from our buddy Kyle Dvorak. Games with 100 plus receiving yards since 2023. Every other running back in the NFL, 3. Bijan Robinson, 3. In this game, 17 carries, 75 yards and a score, and another 4 catches for 106 yards as the Falcons win 34-27 over the Marcus Mariota led Commanders.
I'm seeing Bobby Wagner chase a lot more guys down the field, not chasing them down, just chasing them. And that's what happened with the Bijan Robinson play. So good to see him get schemed up, and obviously he can make the most out of it. So what a monster as usual. Kyle Pitts sees 5 targets, but to me, the big storyline in this one was just Drake London involvement. The touchdown was in the slot as well.
Was it really?
10 targets. Yeah. You'll see
Zach watches the show, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, just like beat guys down the field on top of it. So he was super fired up. So I didn't watch this one in entirety, but I saw the big plays in this one. And Drake London was obviously extremely fired up. And then Darnell Mooney leaving with a hamstring injury in this one, only had 1 target in this one. So that obviously helps Kyle Pitts and Drake London. You don't get very many yards from the rest of the wide receivers. So if we get this thing condensed again, and if Michael Penix looks the part, then obviously that's huge stock up for Drake London. So that was another one where just good to see 10 targets again.
Yeah, unfortunately for Darnell Mooney, like coming back from that shoulder injury and now a hamstring, it's like his season's never going to get started, which really, really sucks. And then Tyler Algier is just an awesome closer in these games. Like Bijan can put all this stuff together for 3.5 quarters. In the final 2 drives, the defense just gets a heavy dose of an angry Tyler Algier who makes up for it. Mm-hmm. It can be tough to predict when that happens. But again, in this game, 16 carries, 51 and a score. I'm excited to see.
He's still not rostered all the time. Like he's like rostered like 40%. Like it makes
just
no sense.
To me, it's really unpredictable to know when you can actually play him or not.
Well, he's like not even on teams. Like on the Yahoo, Jacob and I will do the Yahoo waiver wire show again, and he's just like not even out there. Like how much more signal do you want where you can possibly flex him during bye weeks and injuries? But he's easily the number 1 waiver wire guy to me. Like if the starter goes down, it's like him and Charbonnet. Like these guys are proven.
On the Commanders' end, Mariota does have an interception here. The running back room, I think Bill barely had any snaps until the 4th quarter. Obviously, he came in with a knee knock, but Chris Rodriguez starts with 7 for 59. JCM with 7 for 47, adds in their 2 for 10. But then I guess the only big conversation is Deebo Samuel with 6 targets, 6 receptions, 72 yards, and a score. I have no notes here.
Yeah, Commanders, all the running backs under 5.1 expected fantasy points in this one. You just can't play any of these guys. Like it's a run. The running or the quarterbacks are going to get involved. Deebo Samuel's going to get involved, and then they're going to chop this a million different ways. So like I don't. Corey's going to be good on a play-by-play basis, but in fantasy, I just like don't see how this one like fully takes off for a little bit here.
Texans 26, the 0-4 Tennessee Titans 0. Let's start with the positives. Okay. CJ Stroud, 233, 2 touchdowns. One of those to Jaden Higgins on a slot route upfield. And then the other one to one of the biggest stories of the week. Woody Marks takes over this backfield. Woody Marks goes out there and has 40 of 71 snaps. Nick Chubb, 30 of 71 snaps. Woody Marks, 17 carries for 69 yards and a touchdown. Woody Marks, 4 catches on 5 targets, 50 yards and a score. A couple weeks ago, they were either on Sunday night or Monday Night Football, and Dameon Pierce was a healthy scratch. Yep. At that point, Woody Marks was available on a ton of leagues. I know I tweeted it out. I know on the waiver show, you guys always talked about this. It seemed inevitable if Joe Mixon wasn't going to return to this team that Nick Chubb couldn't last for 17 weeks, but Hayden, it only took 4 weeks for Woody Marks to seemingly become the running back 1 on this team.
Trade Nick Chubb if you have him, and then pick up waiver wire wise. Like he's going to be a guy that you could just basically blow your entire fab budget for Woody Marks. He looked awesome in this one. I mean, the touchdowns were incredible. Like that, he had the dead leg cut up, which was extremely explosive. So yeah, what's cool with this story is he's an air raid back. So like obviously 4 receptions, 50 yards receiving score, not surprising. Him having 17 carries in this one, like immediately like showing that he can actually handle like normal duo runs, power runs. It's a complicated rushing scheme without a bunch of positive offensive linemen. Like that's really impressive for a young guy. So I think like Nick Chubb, he's going to 0 very quickly. And then Woody Marks, I think is going to be one of the underrated storylines. Could have like a Rico Dowdle type of season rest of the way.
I'm really excited. Now, again, this is the Titans. They were without, I think, T'Vondre Sweat, and they are 0-4 and quite bad. So this might be, the best script that he has all season long, but that shouldn't get in the way. hopefully you've been watching and tuning into the show and, picking up Woody Marks before you needed to. I know I run into some people around who have like 3 quarterbacks on their roster, and I took their phone and dropped one and picked up Woody Marks for them just yesterday. Hopefully you're ahead, because that's why you kind of pick up these rookies or second backs in uncertain situations. Because at any point, think in your head how much fab budget you would spend on Woody Marks at this moment if he was available in your league, and it's 100%. And yeah, I mean, in the preseason, he was running those legit things and breaking tackles and doing all that stuff. So I'm glad the Texans got back on track here and won a game. That is not the case here for the Titans. It gets like worse and worse. Brian Callahan getting a bit testy with reporters after the game that are asking, some pressing questions. He gave up play calling in this one. And again, I didn't watch it, but Cam Ward, 10 of 26 for 108 yards, takes 2 sacks. There was an interception. And then, Alec Ayamanor is the leading receiver with 2 catches for 44 yards. What are we doing here?
If your son was the head coach of a team and you were also on that team and your son got fired, do you resign yourself or do you keep your job?
No, you do. You go out with the ship. We see this all the time, like the closest confidants exit with them. Here. So not only would they lose their head coach, they would be losing their offensive line coach too.
Well, their first rounder from a couple years ago isn't even playing right now because of an injury. So this 0-4 team, they haven't scored over 21 points in a single game. They got shut out in this one. Cam Ward said it that they're ass. They're 100% ass on both sides of the ball. They still can't get Calvin Ridley going in this one. He obviously saw Derek Stingley, but we're getting to the point. Next week, Tyjae Spears is eligible to return. I'm assuming he is. And now we're going to go with Tony Pollard, who is barely holding on as a flex play right now. Now we're going to eat into his snaps. Is there a single Tennessee Titan that deserves flex consideration on a team that's competing in fantasy? The answer is no.
No, I mean, they're on the road against the Cardinals next week, then on the road against the Raiders, maybe in that game. You would consider it. And then it gets the Patriots. So these 3 for an average football team are very winnable games.
Yeah.
But not this Titans team. I mean, they are on a collision course right now to go back-to-back number 1 overall selections.
Yeah. I mean, if you're the coaching staff, you can do worse getting fired in Arizona. Go head over to Scottsdale, beautiful place, or in Las Vegas, just hang out in Las Vegas. That's my plan.
Okay. Last game that we'll talk more about in Stats versus Film on Tuesday. Lions 34, Browns 10. Again, we talked about it heading into this contest. There was a big difference in just the predicted points for the Lions from week 1 against one of the best defenses in the Packers that was on the road in only 22. And this game, it was about 26.5, 27.5. And they ended up scoring 34. 15 runs for Jahmyr Gibbs, goes for 91 and a score. And then Dave Montgomery goes 9 runs for 12 and then gets overed from there. So a massive split in terms of rushing success.
Yeah, it was a bad matchup for David Montgomery's carries, but then apparently Myles Garrett and everybody else wasn't out there for the Jahmyr Gibbs stuff as predicted. So it's it's one of these things where, the Lions scored 34 freaking points again. That's to me the takeaway. This is not an easy matchup, and they had it nailed. The prediction markets were they're expected to score a lot of points, and they did. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, 2 more touchdowns in this one, and then Jahmyr Gibbs gets home. But this easily could have been Jameson Williams, 2 touchdowns. This could have been Laporta, 2 touchdowns. So we're back to it where 2 guys are super smashes, 3 guys hold the line, keep it moving, and we'll just be kind of rotating these guys around for the rest of the season. But good news that the offense is alive.
And on the Browns end, their passing offense is just abysmal. 16 of 34, Joe Flacco, 184. 2 interceptions, 3 sacks taken. Isaiah Bond is the leading receiver with 3 for 58. Yeah. Jerry Jeudy pops up. And then the big thing here, again, bad teams can support one player if they support anyone. And in this case, it is Quinshon Judkins with 25 touches, 82 rushing yards and a score, and then 4 for 33 in the air.
So next week, the Browns face, Brian Flores in another country. So that'll probably be Joe Flacco, throw him to the Wolves. And then I think at that point, the season is completely over. It's only about evaluating the future. You're going to bench Joe Flacco at that point. I think that David Njoku could be on the trade block. Cedric Tillman is out now. So now they're looking at Isaiah Bond out there. Harold Fannin still gets 6 targets, but this team is definitely bottomed out, scoring, I think, 17 points or fewer in all 4 games. So I think we're gonna get one more Joe Flacco game, just because starting Dylan Gabriel in another country against Brian Flores, like, I know you want to get your rookies out there. We just saw what Jackson Dart did, but like, to me, that's maybe one too much, because your left tackle, I think, is out for the year. So it's like not even a good offensive line anymore too. So the Browns are going to be, the Browns, the Titans, like some of these teams that we knew were going to be bad are looking just as bad as predicted.
In the non-Jameis Winston games, the last 18 or something have not hit 20 points for this team. They haven't hit a single 20-point contest. We'll talk about it again on more in Stats versus Film, but since week 2, Quinshon Judkins is top 10, number 10, running back 10 in terms of points per game at this moment. All right. That does it. Shout out to all of you for watching the entire thing. Hitting that subscribe button. It's totally free to all of you. And yeah, more injuries, more topsy-turvy, maybe some coaching changes by the time you guys do the show on Monday night. Waiver Wire will post after the 2 Monday night football games end. So lock in, be prepared. Shout out to Mosho and Weaves in the back end, Hayden in front of the camera, up the Vela. We'll talk to y'all soon. See ya.